I guess the best way to describe change management is a process by which you lead an organisation from one state to another. The process of taking you from where you are to where you want to be or need to be. And if you do that well, you'll create success. And if you don't do it well, then you'll struggle to meet some of your targets. So obviously understanding what change management means to you is a very important point. I think good change management is the difference between success and failure. I think if you get your change management right, then you're able to adapt to the world as it's changing. And if you get it wrong, then you will struggle to meet your targets. So I think it's important to understand that change management is about doing certain things well, particularly understanding where you want to go and how you might get there and how you might engage people in the process of getting you there. I worked with an organisation quite a few years ago where what they were doing was moving from one type of business operation to another. So they were moving from a geographically based business to one which was about strategic business units. And this was a significant shift because over many years everyone had become embedded in the idea that their local boss was in their local country. And what we wanted to do was to shift that perception from having an allegiance, if you like, not just to their boss in the country, but actually mainly to the strategic business unit, which is in the United States. So the process of getting that right was very important because if you mess with a complete structure and start changing it, then you run the risk of breaking it. You run the risk of losing the allegiances and alliances you've got between the people and their boss. And that was a challenge that the company rose to very well. The process of actually taking people through the change management was also very well done, in my opinion. What we did was to go around to every one of the countries individually and spent on a kind of roadshow a whole series of presentations and feedback sessions to explain what we were doing and why it was important, how the business had changed and the need for different priorities. And when we'd done that, people could get the idea of why it was important. And then we worked on what was their role. What role did they have to play in the process? How did it affect them? Now, in this case, there were no redundancies. It was just simply a realignment of the way the organisation was rather than a restructuring looking for efficiencies. So there wasn't a threat, but there was a significant shift of approach. And what really worked was just getting that opportunity to talk to people about what you wanted to do, and then you could talk to them and say, well, here's what we want from you. I think the first mistake people can make is to think it's going to be an easy ride, to think it's going to be a very straightforward process. Most people respond to change in organisations with a sense of fear. But the question is, what kind of fear is it? For most people, it's the fear of loss of something, maybe loss of status, loss of position, loss of fellow workers, people they work with. A sense of place in an organisation. Sometimes people feel the loss of meaning. People work for many different reasons, not just for money. So if you're in a situation where you're introducing change, the meaning in people's lives goes. And that's important today, that people do have a meaningful place in the work that they do and the way they contribute. So I think one of the mistakes is not to take that into account. I think secondly, that the process of change and change management has two elements. The first is a rational one, where you're going through the processes and steps of change management as we might do it, changing this, scoping this out, deciding what the plan is, putting it in place, reviewing it. And at the same time, people are going through an emotional curve where they're reacting to things as it matters to them. Because the first question people ask in change management is, what about me? It's very personal. Now, if you're dealing with change in big organisations, that's a huge issue for leaders to face. And there's a recognition that, don't worry about it, it'll sort itself out, I think is a dangerous one. It's a mistake. So you need to take account of and listen to what people have to say and understand what their needs are, but still stay firm in what you want to do. One of the most significant challenges that a director faces is leading change. So how do you do it right? How do you get the best chance of succeeding? I'd say the first thing to do is to have clarity. The most important thing is to have clarity. You need clarity of what your goal is, what it is you're trying to achieve, individually and as a board. You need clarity about what the process is, what you need to do to be successful. And you need clarity also about what the roles and responsibilities are, who's doing what, especially when you're working as a team on a board. Secondly, what I would say is that the board needs to look at how united it is. The unity on the board is really important. So the board needs to be seen as one. It needs to speak with one voice. It needs to act as one. You can't have a situation where someone's leaving the boardroom and they haven't quite agreed with it, so they're not going to go along with the process. The board must be seen as a united force that's making this change happen. And there'll be change sponsors who are responsible for leading the change, and so-called change champions. Their role is to support the process, kind of carry the flag, make sure that others are involved and engaged in the process, encourage the change process as much as they can. The third point is that directors have to be acting with integrity. They have to act in the best interest of the company, they have to be honest with their employees, and they have to take account of different stakeholders and different stakeholder groups. How much influence and power they have and how much they're impacted by the change initiative is a crucial part in understanding how you implement change. And having a dialogue with all the stakeholders is going to be absolutely crucial to success.